I thought I'd sit down with you, Zeb, because you posted the other day, it's been 20 years since you've been in the hospitality industry. And I know nothing about hospitality, so I thought you'd be a good man to talk to.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start off, how did you get into hospitality?
Well, I started as a school-based apprentice when I was 14. Is when I started in kitchens professionally. But I guess before that, I was just always obsessed with cooking at home. I was always a big lad, so I loved eating.
Yeah.
And I just really loved, I guess, like when mum and dad had friends over, like hospitality as a whole. Loved cooking shows, just everything about it. Still, even now, I'll finish work, I'll go and watch cooking shows. Like I do love it.
Do you have a favourite cooking show?
Not really. I mean, there's so much content out now that you can follow restaurants, you can follow individual chefs, you can follow home cooks. I think there's so much to absorb in the whole industry that you can never stop learning, which is a nice thing about it.
Yeah.
And every day is different as well. So, but 20 years. So I worked for free for a year before that, before I started my apprenticeship. So technically 21, but yeah.
And whereabouts were you working when you first started?
I grew up in Chinchilla.
Yep.
So I worked at a restaurant there called Great Western. There's a restaurant attached to a 26-room motel. When I tell that story, it kind of sounds a little like, oh yeah, but how you going? Like country kind of pub chef, but it wasn't the case. I was fortunate in my apprenticeship that I had a really good boss from the start. Her name was Jill. I think she did pretty well for herself, and she paid to have really good chefs there. So I had really good mentors from the start. I could stay in one venue for my whole apprenticeship, which is pretty unheard of as well. I was treated really well, and I had really good chefs to learn from. 3 really good chefs throughout my 4-year apprenticeship. So,
and what were some of the things you learned like early in your career that you feel like you still use today as a head chef and the owner of a restaurant?
Treating your staff well.
Yeah.
Like I was fortunate to have that off the bat. I've seen it through the industry too many times where apprentices get taken advantage of, or people in general get taken advantage of, especially in hospitality. So I really took that with me as a business owner. I think I definitely try my best to be a good business operator, good employer. That's probably one thing I took from the start. I got paid correctly, I got paid on time, had my super paid, all that jazz. So fortunate in that sense, and I guess just always owning up to mistakes is really a big thing.
Yeah.
Like, you fuck up in the kitchen, like, tell someone so you can fix it straight away so it's not, doesn't snowball.
Yeah.
Just take pride in your work, a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. I wouldn't say there was a lot of cooking per se that I still use, because that changes over time. But definitely a lot of more integral parts, I think, that you can carry across through all of life. It's nice. So.
And was there any sort of foods you were interested in cooking from an early age? Or did you have a family recipe that you liked, or was it a particular cuisine that sort of stood out to you as a kid?
Not really. Probably leaned more into maybe an Asian influence at a younger age. I loved making sushi and stuff at home.
Yeah.
But I've always been pretty kind of fluid in what I gravitate towards, what I like. The restaurant kind of has taken different approaches in its food style, modern Australian, or we're a little kind of Middle Eastern influence at the moment with the chefs we have in the kitchen, and so again, I think it's good to be fluid in your education about cooking and your approach to cooking as well, because there's so much to learn. Yeah.
We'll talk to them a little bit about how you went about opening your own restaurant. Obviously, this is your second restaurant. Would you call it your second restaurant, or a rebrand of your first restaurant?
Yeah, definitely. It's still first restaurant with a rebrand. Well, I opened when I was 25. So, again, I was pretty fortunate in the sense that I'd worked really hard from 14. I'd saved a little bit of money. I had good jobs when I moved to Toowoomba from Chinchilla. and I had the opportunity to travel and work, and then that kind of transitioned into a conversation with my parents about, well, instead of using the money to travel and cook for free, which was going to be the case because there were free jobs overseas for a stagiaire, so use the money and open your own thing. So mum and dad helped finance the restaurant as well with secured loan against a property of theirs, and yeah, kind of just went all in. I didn't really know the first thing about opening a business, especially a restaurant. Like, I didn't have those mentors in my life that had done it. I'd been in kitchens, but I hadn't really worked with anyone that was a chef, owner, operator. So there's a lot of learning in that aspect. Still learning now, 10 years on, so 9 years on.
Yep. And what gave you the confidence to do that? You know, that's obviously a massive step as a young man to open your own restaurant.
I mean, I think all young chefs are pretty arrogant.
Yeah. Do you think arrogance is important as a chef?
I don't know. I don't know if it's important. I've definitely probably tried to strip it from my life now. I think it's important to be confident, but as long as you have a plan of attack now, I think that's kind of the difference. Is like blind kind of arrogance when you're younger can really lead you astray and not allow you the opportunity to learn. But I guess just thinking, well, why not?
Yeah.
Was the biggest thing. Why not open a restaurant? Yeah, I didn't really think much past it then. I didn't really have a 2-year goal or a 5-year goal or a 9-year goal. I just said, well, what's the best that you can do to make it work? I've always said I'd rather close the doors with integrity than kind of go against what I believe in. So that's, it's got me this far. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And you said you travelled a bit. Whereabouts were you travelling to learn?
No, I had the opportunity to travel.
Oh, okay.
So I had kind of three restaurants that I'd lined up to go and work at overseas. One being the Fat Duck.
Oh, yeah.
So that was I had an opportunity to stage there. So the stagiaire is like your chef that works for free, essentially. And then 2 other restaurants. So it was going to be a super expensive year of travel and accommodation, and yeah, hence going, well, why not open a restaurant with that money and give it a go? Yeah,
no, for sure. And opening a restaurant, like, would you describe your restaurant as like a high dining restaurant, or what would you, like, medium to high dining? How would you describe it?
I think it's probably an introduction into like higher end dining.
Yeah.
It's obviously not a pub. You dined here.
Yeah, beautiful food.
But it's definitely not to the extent that I think dining can be. If you've experienced super high end dining, like it's a whole other experience. And I think having had those experiences, to learn that the food is only a small part of the whole dining experience. It's like a choreographed show. You have 50 or 60 staff all working together to kind of make these experiences happen, and you can take portions of that and trickle it down. It's like F1 racing into modern kind of cars. There's flow down effect of all of that. So I think we take portions out of higher end dining and kind of introduce it into a more approachable kind of experience.
Yeah, and that sort of leads on to my question, which is, we're in a regional area here. Opening a restaurant like this, was it difficult in the sense of, like, because there's not many, like, it's pretty much just you guys, was it maybe a few more, but like...
There's definitely a few other restaurants in the region that operate at a high level. I think we're all unique in our own right. But it is hard regionally, especially when the catchment area of Toowoomba is probably more country orientated. And a lot of that clientele, they like to save money. They might not see kind of the value in this type of dining, which is, I respect. But it is hard kind of also standing alone in those situations, because when people don't have a comparison they might hold you to a higher standard because of their view of what they might see on social media, and they kind of come expecting a certain thing, and we offer something different. It's kind of hard to find the balance all the time, and that's where I've probably always been with the food, and it's approachable. So I think people who come in with an open mind, who might have had those thoughts in the past, I think they generally leave having a really good time. And they go, fuck, we'll be back when the menu changes, or it might encourage them to try somewhere else and have a good time as well. So it opens up their experience into more than just pub fare.
And on that point as well, how do you secure recurring customers? How do you make people want to come back?
Oh, look, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
I think statistically speaking, there's information out there that says if a diner has a flawless experience, their likelihood of returning is about 40%.
Okay.
So you need to give them a reason to come back. So, and you need to make their next experience just as flawless. So I think always being consistent, that's kind of the biggest thing. It's like Coffee Club, love it or hate it, they're consistent. And they have consistent customers for that fact. You know what you're going to get. I think we always try and offer that here in what we offer as a higher end kind of establishment. But getting them back is the commitment to changing the menu regularly, having a wine list that kind of doesn't. It's a bit left of centre. You can't get much stuff at Dan Murphy's or even online sometimes. So yeah, just giving the diner another reason to come back, and I think those things are food and wine.
And outside of food itself, how important is the aesthetic? Obviously your restaurant is beautiful. You've got great staff as well. How important are those factors as well?
It all matters so much. I think everything matters, and how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So if the wine glasses aren't polished, if the cutlery isn't clean, if your plates are chipped, if you don't have linen napkins, this is in a higher end setting as well. We curate playlists, we make sure the lights are the right kind of colour and dimness and candles. It just all matters so much. And I think you have to have that obsession with attention to detail to offer a kind of an end-to-end experience.
Yeah.
Very few people who are such incredible cooks that can lean on just their food. I'm not one of them, unfortunately, but I think there's always the opportunity to just do your absolute best with everything you can access to your budget. Yeah.
And how do you go about formulating a menu? How do you pick what goes on that menu? Because obviously there's a lot of great food out there. So how do you decide what goes on your menus?
First and foremost has to, I think, be led by season and more than anything, seasonality. I don't love the word local, which has kind of always been a buzzword. I never sacrifice kind of locality for quality. I think we're pretty fortunate in Australia that we have access to so much. So I think always hunting for the best you can within the season. That has to be your foundation to build a menu from. And then I think a lot of things matter, what's trending. Not that I like to kind of go down that road, but it's still important. What are other restaurants doing? And then what is viable to offer the customer? Again, being regional, we're not going to go out of our way to put kangaroo on the menu. I've done in the past, and it has generally been met with a bit of resistance. But you have to cater to your clientele as well. I think you can be a chef, which is great, but most of us have to be a chef for the customer. If we're not here for them, then what are we here for? And
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's like they kind of they're the ones that will dictate what can and can't work on a menu. So you learn pretty quickly what works, and that kind of helps build a formula as well for a menu, I find. And over time, you can kind of be fluid with how you exchange dishes and what ingredients you might gravitate towards because you understand your diner. And I think that matters so much as well. It's like being hyper aware of how much food's coming back, like being open to constructive criticism. I respect personal preferences, but I think there's a big difference between a preference and general criticism. But being open to that and listening to the diner. So I think that's a big thing as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, the whole criticism thing, because obviously it's like it's your baby, right?
Yeah,
it's your business.
Yeah,
but then like also you want to improve it as well. Like how do you sort of balance that? Like how does it? Do you let it get to you sometimes, or is it? I don't know.
Oh, when I was younger, definitely.
Yeah.
Like I was sleepless some nights over bad reviews or feedback that I didn't take on board in the right way. I think that comes from just being younger. I've probably been known to be a little kind of what's the word? Like I do like to have a bit of a bite back at bad reviews. But again, when that comes down to when people are trying to push a personal opinion on the broader scope of things, and they might not understand. So it's kind of more about education than anything. But yeah, I think just dissecting what the person's trying to offer you as information, and is it constructive to your business model? If it goes against your integrity, then accept it, but you don't have to take it on board.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing as well. It's like everyone's entitled to their opinion. It's what you do with the information that I think is important.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like you get 1,000 good reviews and then you get that one negative review.
Oh, the one bad. Yeah. I believe we're fortunate to have great reviews. Still 9 years on, and yeah, super fortunate for the good ones. But yeah, it's the bad ones that just really stick in your side sometimes. But that's the nature of the beast, and I think hospitality is one of those things that people are hypercritical of because they can cook at home. Not everyone can build a house, and not everyone can service a car, and like it's something that's so accessible to everyone, and it's such a broad language across all culture that it's one of those things that's so easily kind of critiqued, and we have to accept that as that's part of the industry.
Yeah, definitely. So is there any particular dishes that you enjoy cooking the most, or anything that you think on your menu right now that you're like, yeah, that's a standout?
I mean, on the menu right now, the octopus dish. You've enjoyed it,
yeah.
I can't take credit for that. That's Brando in the kitchen. That was it's been his baby. He's nailed his cooking technique for octopus. And it's nice to approach maybe an obscure kind of seafood option for people and have everyone love it.
Yeah.
Even when it's not for them, or that people say, oh, we had it in Sicily or we had it overseas, and it's like where you imagine it to be the best that it can, and they're like, well, that was better. So that's always beautiful feedback to hear. But I probably gravitate towards more simple cooking now. As it's like less is always more, and the trick is in foundational cooking. Like I think I've probably seen a trend in food going back to basics for as far as chefs are involved. It was like focusing on classic sauces, focusing on classic preparations. So I think trying to kind of tweak the menu in that direction as well, where we can kind of get back to base layer of cooking and really let ingredients take over. Yeah.
And you said Brando had the octopus idea and then he worked on it and refined it. Like, how much of that happens in the kitchen where you have something, you go, it's not quite right, let me sort of, fiddle around with it?
It has to happen on a service-to-service basis.
Okay.
We're not fortunate in the sense that we have a huge team or, a lot of disposable cash to throw at what people would say is R&D, research and development. So it's like we can always try our best with at a starting base by understanding ingredients, understanding cooking technique, and how they'll go together. But yeah, just always tasting and taking on that feedback as well. It's important. It's like, okay, well, someone says it's a bit chewy. Okay, well, we've got to tweak cooking temperatures or so. It's those things happen on the fly. I don't think any dish is ever perfect. Like if it's perfect, you're probably kidding yourself.
And it's subjective, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you almost can't make something perfect.
No, it's impossible.
Yeah.
And I think by the time you think it's at that point, it's probably time to take it off the menu. So
yeah,
which is probably where some things are at the moment, which is great. It's great to have dishes that you just know you can go back to again.
So how do you go about? I guess it probably has just come with years and years of experience, but sort of refining your palate with things. I remember we spoke a while ago about how you do wine tastings, right? Like, how does that sort of play into it?
I think it's like your encyclopedia of things to draw on. The more you taste, the more you can understand, the more you can draw on, and that just comes from doing it.
Do you go to other restaurants as well? Like,
try different things? I think it's so important. It's like if you don't invest in your own knowledge and in the industry, you just stagnate. So I think it's always important to go and dine out, and that can be anywhere that excites you. But I think it's just important. It's important to just taste different things, and especially when it comes to wine. Like, I've been obsessed with wine for years now. That if I smell something because I've smelt it before, whereas like someone else probably hasn't.
Yeah.
Like if you and I are going to smell a wine and I smell rosemary and you haven't smelled rosemary before.
Yeah. Not gonna know.
How do you get to know what it is? Yeah. But you're going to know it's a herb, or so it's like your understanding is that it's herby. It's dissecting that further. And I think that just comes from drinking more or eating more. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, true. And the concept of a wine pairing, how do you go about deciding what wines are going to go with what dishes, and how important is wine pairing in a successful restaurant?
That's a good question, and it's one that I'm probably not on paper super qualified to say, but I can give you my opinion, and it's worked this far, is that it's almost impossible to have good food and good wine taste bad together.
Yeah.
If you use a few basic rules. Okay. And those are, you're obviously not going to serve a white wine with red meat.
And why is that? Just kind of how it is.
It's just kind of, it's how it is. But I mean, there's still exceptions to the rule. You could have a really big oaky Chardonnay with pork. Okay. So you're going to go heavier protein with what you'd say is a white wine, but it's heavier and bolder white. Wine pairings, I've stuck to that from the start. That if you have good products, very rarely do they go bad together. Occasionally we'll revisit things and go, okay, well, a certain dish might need a wine that's a little heavier, or a certain skin contact wine isn't going really well with the seafood, how we thought it would work. But for the most part, I think it's you don't have to think about it too much. Yeah. And
you obviously don't have to tell me your finances, but how important is wine in the success, financially, of a restaurant?
Alcohol sales are a huge
Yeah.
portion of this type of hospitality business. As such is volume of coffees to a cafe. You know, it's like you might not make a heap of money on a Eggs Benedict, but you're making a fair spread on 500 coffees a day. Same thing in a restaurant. It's like there's not a lot of money in food when you commit the labour to it, but I think if you're doing a genuine service to the customer and sourcing different wines that aren't available regularly, and you have fair markup, then it definitely value adds to the whole business model. It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, and how do you sort of balance that? Like, how do you determine the margins on things? Say you're like, all right, here's a steak. How much are we going to charge for this steak?
I mean, that just comes down to like you learn it through your apprenticeship and you revisit all the time. So it's like general kind of costings. I work on the general rule of thumb of timing most stuff by 3.5. Works for us. But that changes. Because like say you have a steak on the menu but it costs you $25 for you. And you times that by 3.5 and then you go, fuck, well, are people going to pay $110 or whatever for a steak? You might bring that down, and something that costs you $8, you're charging a little bit more for. So it kind of balances the menu out. And I have the same approach with wines as well. So not everything gets the same kind of flat markup. I like to offer kind of more different or bespoke wines at a little kind of more of a reduced price. When you look at standard kind of markup as a service to the customer. So they don't have to think about the price necessarily to try something different.
And does having those unique wines sort of bring more customers through the door as well?
Yeah, it's probably been one of our bigger draw cards, to be honest, is like I've kind of committed and built the list maybe over the last 5 years of business since COVID. And like the rapport I've built with suppliers, with reps that have access to wines, and people in the industry, they travel for our wine list at times, which is pretty cool. And again, I think the food's gone hand in hand. So it's been one of those things that I've kind of taken a step out of the kitchen to allow myself the opportunity to learn more about wine, to build a more kind of cohesive experience for the diner.
And as a restaurant owner and like a head chef, how important do you feel it is to continue to upskill yourself, whether that be in wines or in cooking? Or
I mean, I think it has to. That has to be a fundamental, basic thing to do. Is like, and that can be done in a majority of ways. As I said, like going home to watch a YouTube video and even revisit old cookbooks or eat out. And an opportunity you have to taste something, to do it, so you can understand, where things are at in cooking times or reduction time or a whole bunch of stuff.
Hi guys, exciting news. We are once again sponsored by Hand Raised Apparel. As you can see, I'm rocking the white tee today. Comes with a really nice font on the front here, and we've also got the logo on the back. Really awesome material. You can train in it, you can wear it out to dinner, you can wear it out to lunch. It's just beautiful. We also have the grey and the green, which comes as well in the grey and the red. And my personal favourite, which I've been wearing a lot recently, is the black and the white. So if you're interested in copying one, head on down to Hand Raised Apparel on Instagram and buy yourself a t-shirt and a rashi. Now back to the podcast.
So what sort of things inspire you with your cooking?
I guess like I get influenced by probably more than anything other restaurants. Like other restaurants I find inspiring. And I think there's a big kind of stigma in the industry that you have to be different and new all the time. I don't believe in that. I think as long as you're making it authentic, as long as it's authentic to you and it's not a direct kind of rip off of what someone else is doing, like great artists steal, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to be original in
Yeah,
anything.
I don't think it's a concept that doesn't exist. I don't like originality doesn't exist, but you have to be authentic.
Yeah.
So I would say I'm inspired by other restaurants all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important to eat out. And that you don't necessarily have to be inspired by just the food.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can eat out and go, fuck, like these chairs are really nice, or the flatware's nice, or these are nice wine glasses, or you know, the staff's aprons are different, or like you can just take inspiration from everywhere all the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's probably what inspires me most is just by everyone in the industry that are being authentic to themselves, and you can kind of see how things trickle down and like spread through the industry when cool ideas come along, you know, and how everyone kind of makes it their own.
Yeah,
I think that's the nice thing about it.
So how much of your own personality do you feel has been put into your restaurant? Like obviously even everything down to like the way you post on Instagram and the aesthetics of how everything looks and the food, like how much of that comes from your personality?
Well, I mean, I think they're probably the same thing. Like I probably approach my own personal life with the way I approach business.
Okay.
I think the restaurant now is probably what I think the restaurant needs to be for Toowoomba.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a little kind of different to what I would love. But for right now, I still love it. I love coming into the space. I like engaging the customer in a different way on social media. You know, being a little bit quirky. I think music is so important as well. I try and put not so much, but I put effort into, you know, how we engage the customer before we get them in the door. Because if they don't like what they kind of see online, I think it's easier to lose a customer there than it is to lose them in the restaurant. Which might be a bit of an ignorant way to look at it, but I think it's probably a good way to do business. It's like if you just kind of cater to the masses and try and get anyone like a huge funnel into the restaurant, and you're only catering to say 10% of diners, you're gonna have a lot of unhappy people that come in the door. So
I guess that goes back to what you were saying about being authentic. You know, if you just tailor to everyone, then it's not you.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not what you believe in, and it's not what your ethos is. So
just keeping your integrity about everything as well. So
you mentioned before that you go to lots of different restaurants. If you had to name, apart from host, obviously, if you had to name 5 other restaurants that are your favourites or that you recommend people try
out. There's Essen in Stanthorpe. Clarissa there, she's just an unreal cook and owner. I'm pretty sure she's committed to changing the menu almost every week for the last 5 years, which is just nuts. And it's just her, well, not just her, but she's the driving force of the whole establishment. So yeah, big kudos to her. Stone Fruit in Tenterfield. My partner Sarah and I, we went there around this time last year, and we talk about it once a week.
Yeah.
So yeah, they I think just won best regional wine list. They have super fun wines, heaps by the glass, very like approachable, delicious food. Nothing over the top, but it's kind of a little left of center as well. For kind of a more higher end kind of experience, Essa in the Valley. The whole team there just seem unreal, and like I take a lot of inspiration from their social media. They just, whoever runs that is just doing an unreal job. Their kitchen is crazy. Like they always changing the menu. Just super inspirational. Where else? Definitely the bar in Burley.
Mhm.
Yeah, Alex and his wife Carla, they just have built something really authentic as well.
Mm.
And have another little wine bar called Paloma, which is kind of around the corner. I think both those establishments are just a huge source of inspiration as well, and just really, I think, cement what good hospitality is about.
Mm.
It's like you feel like you're welcome and in a home when you're there,
Mhm.
which is nice. And probably a more recent dining experience that I've done a dozen times is Gerard's in the Valley as well. So Brando, who's in the kitchen, he did a bit of a stint there. He's friends with the head chef now, but very delicious, focused, Middle Eastern inspired high-end dining.
Mm.
And the fit out there is crazy. So they've just done a whole rebrand, a whole refit, and such a beautiful restaurant. Yeah,
That's great. And you guys cook a variety of different food here.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one cuisine to both eat and cook for the rest of your life, what would you go with?
I would be. Oh shit.
That's a hard one.
Yeah. I'd be hard pressed to like. I'd probably like. I want to say Asian influenced food, but I think if I have to take everything about hospitality, I'd have to say European style dining, probably French focused.
You're a chef.
Yeah, just like it's kind of the birthplace of hospitality and modern gastronomy and wine. Like, it has everything.
Yeah.
So I mean,
is it like the way they approach cooking, like the level of professionalism that they have in that sort of?
It's a lifestyle.
Okay.
And it's not just a job.
Mm.
It's not just a job to get you through uni or whatever. Like, it kind of is looked at, especially in Australia. It's your whole career. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the difference between like service and hospitality is like it's in the person. You can tell pretty quickly who's just doing a job and who lives and breathes hospitality.
Yeah.
To make someone feel like they're at home. Yeah.
I imagine that'd be a difficult skill to like have someone be able to just come in off the street and make them feel like.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Like, I think it has to be them as a person.
Yeah. Authenticity is the word of
yeah,
the day, right?
Yeah, definitely. It has to be like their authentic selves and then they're excited to learn about hospitality and food and wine. It's like you can know everything about those things, but just not be a good people person. You see that in the industry a fair bit as well, but it takes a special person to be at the table as well. Like, I struggle. I thought I wanted to do it, and I do my best if I have to, but it definitely takes a special person to work the floor and show up to a table, like different tables of people as themselves, and offer that table what they need as well. Yeah, so it's like I think there's not enough respect given to people who take front of house seriously as a job. It's building that as a career is just as hard as cooking.
Yeah, and I think I know the answer to this, but how important is being a people person in an industry like hospitality?
I mean, would you want to do it if you weren't?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it has to be in your blood that you want to make someone feel good. You want to give someone an experience and a disconnection from whatever they're going through. When they come for a night out, you have to offer all of that to someone. So I think like you have to be empathetic in a way. You have to be a good listener. You know, we have regulars that we've built over 9 years that are always on for a chat. You know, which is great, and they want to hear about your life as well. But I think, yeah, it's like if you don't like that, or you've not been exposed to it, then it's a funny industry. Yeah.
Is that what you enjoy most about being a chef? Like, you know, that feeling of satisfaction, like these people have come out, they've had a great night, they've forgotten about whatever troubles they had during the day.
That's definitely like that feedback when you get it is what it's all for. Definitely, it's that instant kind of satisfaction and gratification from service. It's like, and the next day you know it's going to be different. As much as it's kind of the same, there's so much that makes every day different in hospitality, which I think is what draws a lot of people to it. It's not really monotonous. Yeah.
Is there something that people don't know about hospitality? Is there something that, you know, things that go on behind the scenes, or sort of the way things operate that are kind of kept away from the average person?
Oh, I mean, probably just the small business aspect of it is that it's like, even when it's good, it's not that good.
Yeah, tough.
Yeah, like the spread's pretty thin, even when you run a really tight ship. So I think like that aspect is, I mean, it's not everyone's business to know business.
Yeah. Cool.
So like they don't. The general diner isn't going to know that. But it's like, yeah, shit's expensive. And of all the kind of businesses to set up for as far as a small business in like restaurant equipment's expensive. Nice crockery is expensive. Flatware, stemware. You know, it's like when a wine glass costs you $15 to $50 a pop. When one breaks, it's like, you're like, fuck. Like, and if your margin is, you know, you're making 7 to kind of 13% profit at the end of the year, you want to make sure everything's pretty tight, because it doesn't take much for a couple of percent to be slipped away through things. I think that's probably the biggest thing, is like, especially in a, you know, cost of living crisis that we're all seeing and being affected by, everything adds up.
I was going to say, there's like how much of these external forces play a factor in terms of the price of everything at the moment.
Yeah, if you're not on top of those things week to week, they're what will consume all of your profit. And it's a hard juggling act of, well, what makes sense business wise and what feels good to pass on to the customer. So sometimes, as I was saying earlier with food, it's like less is more. Sometimes a little bit less going out to the customer for the same price, shrinkflation, if you look at it that way, kind of has to be taken into account. And doing a few maybe like economical things for the diner to have your experience. It doesn't always have to be high end and expensive. So it's like, well, what opportunities can you put together that are a little more cost effective, budget friendly? I use the word cheap, so I'm just
I know what you mean.
Because I don't believe that the things that you offer when you think about that are cheap. They're just that, they're economical, they're budget friendly, and they're at a price point that makes sense. So, you know, we're trialing with the Sunday roast, just to get diners in for a different experience. You know, the same emphasis is put on the cooking, on the products that we offer. You know, some things are a bit of tongue in cheek, you know, $4 tinnies and shit like that. But I think you can do that at these times as well and go, okay, well, what can we offer about everything we've learned and distill it into an approachable offering as well.
So looking forward, what would you what are your plans for the business? Would you want to open another restaurant? Would you want to open a wine bar? What are some things that, you know, whether they're tangible or not, like what would you like to see in the future?
I mean, I think where I'm at in my career now, I love the idea of being multi-venue. Obviously, finances are a huge thing that kind of hold me back from doing that. And unfortunately, probably the hiring scene across the board is a bit of a deterrent in Toowoomba specifically. Getting really good people that want to do it. They don't necessarily have to know everything. It's impossible. But the ones who want to commit are kind of few and far between. So that's a bit of a deterrent from being multi-venue. But for right now, just focusing on the restaurant as it is, and being open up to opportunity that might come along in the future as well. So not being closed off to what moving the restaurant might look like or what another venue might look like. But I think I've probably grown out of the kitchen a little bit and would like to progress more with broadening my horizon within hospitality as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but I'm open to those opportunities moving forward. Yeah.
I guess, after 20 years, you know plenty of things, so there's plenty of room for you to expand and try new things.
Yeah, I think I have like a good foundation to grow from. And I just I think about other professions that I might like to do, or I do like hospitality. And look, the last probably 12 months, I've had a pretty fortunate lifestyle of probably not being in the kitchen as much, not being in the restaurant as much, but I've definitely been kind of growing the business for it to be sustainable, kind of without me in the picture all the time. To be open to those opportunities that might come along. Yeah.
And early in your career, I imagine you would have worked some pretty long hours, and you had a lot of sacrifices that go into hospitality. Talk to me a little bit about those, and now why it's so great to be able to step back and have a bit more free time.
Yeah, I mean, from when I was 14 to maybe 12 months ago, 18 months ago, it's like I missed weddings, birthdays, and funerals. Never really had a weekend off consistently. I've had Fridays and Saturdays off across my years, but I don't planning for a weekend is not something I'd ever do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a sacrifice per se anymore. But definitely some I carry with me, like missing funerals. That's been rough for me with friends that I've lost, but they're in the industry as well, so it's I kind of go, well, they probably would have wanted me to work.
They would have understood.
Yeah, they would have understood, which kind of helps me accept that. But I think the other big thing is your health gets sacrificed. Shift work across the board, no matter the industry that you're in, is not kind on your body. Unfortunately, I'm probably a night owl. I like being up at night. I like working nights. Having had cafe jobs as well, my preference is to work dinner. But having the opportunity to focus on my health and not sacrifice that anymore the last 12 months has been a big thing. And I think it's such an important thing for anyone in the industry to focus on your health, because if you're not your best, then you can't offer your best to everyone else. So,
do you have any other tips for people who are looking to get into hospitality, since you mentioned that?
I think at any age, if you want to give it a go, just give it a go and be open-minded. I think the industry's changed for the better in so many ways the last maybe 10 years, where I don't think people are getting screamed at anymore. No one's
getting pans thrown at them.
No one's getting pans thrown at them. And there's definitely been a huge focus on balance and health and a better approach to having a lifestyle that is flexible. where you're not having to be in the kitchen 100 hours a week. And yeah, because it's not good for anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just had a few last questions here for you, a few more fun ones. If I have a date coming around, what should I be cooking? What's a good date night dish? And by date, I mean my girlfriend. I've got a date coming around.
I've thought about this in the past, and I kind of wanted to develop a recipe book that was a bit of a play-by-play guide for young bachelors.
Yeah.
I think something that you can engage your date with.
Okay.
Something you can prep together.
Mm-hmm.
I think definitely 2 courses.
Yep.
Either an entree and a main, or a main and a dessert. Nothing too heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And something that takes a little bit of time to cook, so you can kind of enjoy that time together in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. This might be the second or third date kind of stuff. I wouldn't do first date fucking roast dinners and but I think once you know each other and you can kind of I think that's a fun way to cook. So if you can do it together. Mm-hmm. So it might be a bruschetta.
Yeah.
That's pretty universal. Most people know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty simple ingredients that are readily available. And some form of pasta is probably into across the line.
Yeah.
I personally, I've always made a mushroom risotto.
Nice.
It's kind of like it's a 45-minute, hour-long process. And if you really focus on it, you can look cool cooking it. You can play some Italian music. You can drink delicious wine.
Yeah.
And you can have a conversation while you're doing it. It's kind of one pot. You're not thinking about too much else.
Not making like a croquet bush.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you know, have
hour time. In the background.
6 different vegetables to roast. And,
yeah.
Some form of one pot, one day, a little bruschetta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I like that.
Yeah.
What about a simple but tasty dish you can just cook yourself? Like you get home late from work, you're tired, you want to cook something that's nice, but relatively simple.
I think anything with eggs is probably going to be the go-to. Simple pleasures like that, like just really well-cooked scrambled eggs. Mm-hmm. I think that should be the foundation for anyone's kind of introduction to cooking is like how well can you perfect eggs, fried, poached, scrambled, omelette.
And what is the tip? How do you scramble a good egg?
It depends on your personal preference, but more butter.
Okay.
Yeah, more butter and more salt. Whatever you're cooking, it needs both of those things.
Yeah.
But I'd probably say like an omelette of some description would probably be my go-to for like a good mushroom omelette. Yeah. Heaps of cheese, heaps of butter.
Use the leftover mushrooms from the day.
Yeah, exactly. And that'd be my like late night if I was to go home and cook. But I'm a pretty basic man at home.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just lastly, best drunk meal to make.
Oh shit. Drunk meal to make. Have to be something fried. I'm trying to think of meals that are made drunk. Oh no, I'm probably gonna go with a jaffle.
Jaffle?
Yeah, like a pressed
jaffle?
fucking toasty.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
With the sealed edges.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them drunk is.
What are you chucking on it?
I'm probably gonna do ham, some form of like Swiss cheese.
Yeah. Good for the melt, or?
Yeah. Pickles.
Yeah.
No tomato. I'm ham, cheese, pickle, jaffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm absolutely fucking lit.
Yeah.